Welcome back to Learn Astrology with Mary. My name's Mary English. You can find me at www.maryenglish.com, maryenglish.co.uk and UK Astrologer. Hello, how are you? Now this week I'd like to talk about one planet in one house in the chart. And I'm going to read some blurb from 3 or so different astrologers and their takes on this planet in this house. Keeping in mind that there's lots of different house systems and there's lots of different people that place different weighting as in W-E-I-G-H-T, weight as opposed to W-A-I-T, on various different planets and what they do. I'm very much into the outer planets. I don't know if I have mentioned it before, but I'll say it again if you don't know, that I live in a city called Bath, and Bath is the home of the discovery of the planet Uranus, which I'm going to talk about today. And it was discovered by a guy called William Herschel, who was a musician who'd come over from Germany, and he was in some sort of military type band thing, and he had to sort of play, was what he did, and he came to the UK, can't remember why, but he was very interested in astronomy, and developed a very strong telescope, and him and his sister used to go into the garden of their house in the centre of Bath. The house still exists. It's now where they lived is a museum, and long story short, he spotted Uranus. So he was the person that discovered it. And I live there, and I visited the museum more than once, and I've linked up with a local Bath astrology group who are very, very friendly. Astronomy group, sorry. We haven't got a local astrology group, but we've got a local astronomy group, and they're very friendly and very kind. They know that I'm an astrologer. They don't take the mickey out of me. They let me use their telescopes, and I've been to various different viewings with them, and lovely it is as well. I'm always asking them, can I have the big telescope? I want to see Uranus. So what we're going to be talking about today, what we're going to be looking at, is Uranus in the 10th house of career. So as you know, I'm very fond of the website Astro.com, and I've been on using their ADB search tool, and I thought, well, because I just did a search first of all for Uranus in the 10th house to see how many zillions of charts turned up, and the Astrodatabank goes back to the year 1900, so they have charts for, this is Astrodatabank now, the charts go back to the year 1900 and go up to today's date, 2025, and there were thousands of charts with Uranus in the 10th. So to make some sort of sense of it, I thought, well, since we're astrologers, you're an astrologer, you're interested in astrology, I'll look and see how many astrologers on there have got Uranus in the 10th house, and the numbers turned up. There was 171. I'll give you their names in a minute. And I thought, well, there's one famous person I'm always banging on about, which is Mr. Donald Trump, who has Uranus in his 10th house. Now, I know that off by heart anyway. And so I thought, I wonder what other political leaders of some description there are. And you know, there were only 25, and none of them were people that I'd heard of. Not that means anything, but there were 25 of them, and these are heads of state or US presidents. And as far as I can make out, Donald Trump was the only US president. I'm sure I've clearly read that. And the other one that I definitely know, so these are 25 people who only 2 of them I'd heard of, and as far as I'm aware, only 2 of them are actual leadings of countries, and it's Emmanuel Macron. And I thought, that's interesting when you consider what Uranus in the 10th house is all about. It obviously doesn't attract too many people. Politics, this is. There aren't that many people that end up being a head of state that have that configuration. I wonder why that is. Now, this is Mr. Donald Trump's second term. I was sort of considering, is the way that Uranus, the way it's seen by other people or felt or whatever, is there some sort of change going on? Will there be, I don't know, are there going to be more political leaders that have got Uranus in the 10th house, or is this just a one-off thing for the US? Who knows? These are just rhetorical questions. So I'll read you some interpretations of what happens when a person is born with Uranus in the 10th house. I am using the equal house system. Obviously, if you're using Placidus or whole sign or whatever, it's not going to be the same, but I make no excuses. I'm going to be reading you. So I'm starting with The Only Way to Learn Astrology, Volume 1 by Marion D. March and Joan McEvers. And they use a lovely keyword system for each planet in each house. They were geniuses, these two ladies. And for Uranus in the 10th house, their keyword is distinctive. Okay, now keeping in mind Emmanuel Macron and Donald Trump. Okay, so just keep that in mind. I'll tell you the astrologers in a minute, but anyway. Uranus in the 10th house, keyword distinctive. When you have a cause, you are a great fighter. With your vision, you could be a splendid leader of world affairs with the ability to change old ways. However, with challenging aspects, you may rebel and attack authority of any kind. You are very original, imaginative, altruistic, and humanitarian. Since you are an awkward follower, you strive to be in charge. You may experience many sudden career changes and disappointments, or you may feel misunderstood, especially by others in position of authority. However, an unusual or different kind of career will always appeal to you. With aspects to the sun, you will probably be interested in the occult and astrology. Now, there's a search term on the Astrodatabank search tool, and you can choose vocation, and then under occult is astrologer. There's other types of jobs, there's psychics and blah, blah, blah. And I thought it was rather, funny is the wrong word, but I thought it was rather interesting that Marion and Joan were saying that it could be astrology. But you think about what the energy of Uranus is all about. It's all about freedom. There's nothing linear about it. It's on a good day, Uranus can be excessively exciting. Bing, bang, bong, jumping about from one thing to another. And it obviously depends what sign of the zodiac you are to whether or not you even like Uranus. Some people don't like Uranus. Taurus hasn't enjoyed the Uranus transit through their sign. 7 whole years of bing, bang, bonk. I've mentioned before that a number of clients that have come to me because of that, their lives were completely disrupted by it. But the sign of the zodiac that was prior to that, which was Aries, I didn't have a single client that I can remember that came to me specifically because Uranus was doing something in their chart that they didn't like or couldn't cope with. And now it's just about to go through an air sign of Gemini, so it won't. Yeah, so certain signs of the zodiac get along better with Uranus. And obviously when we're I'm just talking about a house now, a planet in a house. There's going to be aspects and there might be clusters of things and a whole host of stuff. So we've got 25 heads of state, and including in that category US president. So we've got Donald Trump, and then we've got head of state, which is Emmanuel Macron. And then of the astrologers, that from the year 1900 to 2025, there are 171. Now, I'm not going to read you out all of the 171 because, again, I don't know every astrologer that's ever been born, but of the ones that I did know, I'm just going to tell you the names. So we've got Manly P. Hall, Zipporah Dobbins, Francois Gauquelin, and that's her husband that did the Gauquelin sectors. So I've done a whole podcast on him, but that's his Mrs. Francois, because she was an astrologer as well. Charles Harvey, Donna Cunningham, whose chart we're going to do today. Mystic Meg. If you live in the UK, you remember her because she was on the telly. I think they did some sort of lottery draw with her, but she actually was an astrologer as well. Barbara Hand Clow, Demetra George, Anne Whitaker, Richard Smoot, and Patrick Curry. So those are a number of ones that I've heard of. And then last on the list was Chris Brennan. So since Chris Brennan was born, there haven't been any other famous notary type of astrologer, and they're not going to put little diddly ones on there. Chris Brennan was last on that list because the year he was born was 1984. So we haven't got a famous astrologer since 1984 that's made it to being on Astro.com, Astrodatabank, that has Uranus in the 10th house and is also astrologer. Now, it's not a signature for an astrologer. Where Uranus is located in your chart does not make you an astrologer. And as Marion and Joan say, they're saying with aspects to the sun, you'll probably be interested in the occult and astrology, probably. But I did think it was rather interesting that 171 astrologers turned up, and we've got their charts today. So we're going to be looking at Macron, we're going to be looking at Donna Cunningham, we're going to be looking at Donald Trump. I'm not going to spend too much time on him, I'm fed up with this flippy chart. And we've got Chris Brennan. I'm just going to share their charts and we'll talk a little bit about them. Now, I didn't personally know Donna, but we did have a lot of email exchanges, and I was invited onto her blog once, and she endorsed a number of my books. And when I wrote the book about cancer, I dedicated it to her because she was very, very kind to me while I was a beginner astrologer. She went out of her way to welcome the questions that I'd asked her, and I have a deep respect for her. So I never met her face to face, and only once went to an online webinar that she ran, but I was just a member of the audience. She knew I was there, but I never met her, never had a consultation with her or anything, but I really, really liked her, so we are going to look at her. However, she's passed now. I did tell her once that her birth chart was on the Astrological Association's, because we keep the charts, famous people's charts. They're not all of the ones that are on Astrodatabank. The Astrological Association have got their own charts as well that have been researched and people have been happy to share. And somehow or other her chart ended up on there. And I just happened to mention in an email, your chart's on, and she was absolutely gutted and upset. And she asked them to remove it, which, as far as I'm aware, they did. But now she's passed. I don't know if that makes a difference, but while she was living, she didn't want her chart shared. But that's probably because she had Sun in the 12th house, which is a lot more of a not wanting to be the lead singer of the band type of thing. So, let's start with Donna's chart. So she has Uranus in the 10th. It's conjunct her Saturn, which is in the 11th, and her ascendant is 3 degrees Leo, and her Uranus is 2 degrees Gemini. So it just manages to be at the end of her 10th house. What other aspect does it make? I think that's it. It makes a square to her north node. Yes, conjunct to her Venus and conjunct to her Saturn, because her Venus is 8 degrees. As far as I know, she never married, and I know for sure she never had children, and I'm 99% sure she didn't get married either. Whether or not she had boyfriends, who knows. But Uranus is in the sign of Gemini, and it's 2 degrees, and as I'm speaking to you today, Uranus is we are August, it's 0 degrees Gemini. Will it get to 2 degrees by the end of the year? It's going to go retrograde. Nope, it's not going to make it out. But yeah, so she was born astrologically a little bit later to Uranus being in Gemini, where is it at the moment, but a little further on. So maybe next year would be equivalent. If we're talking about her having a Uranus return, she never got to see her Uranus return as far as I remember. She died on her 70-something birthday. It could have been her 70th birthday, but her 70-something birthday. And that was the day she passed, which was dreadfully sad, and I know no details about it at all. And I know she didn't start her life as an astrologist. She worked with women, and she had something like, not a psychologist, but a social work. She had a master's in social work in 1967 from Columbia University. But she was a healer. She used psychotherapy, flower essences, and astrology. She was awarded the Regulus Award in 1998 for her contributions to theory and understanding in astrology. She died on her 75th birthday, 5th of July 2017. But she was very, very, very into astrology. She was also into flower essences. She wrote a number of books about it, and also she wrote the most best book ever, which is Healing Pluto Problems. So if you ever want to buy a book about Pluto, she wasn't particularly into Uranus. She was much more into Pluto, because she had Pluto in the first house in Leo, 4 degrees, and her ascendant was 3 degrees. So Pluto was right slap bang on her ascendant. She was very firm about Pluto and the difficulties that can bring, and how to work with people that either have a Scorpio ascendant or are a Scorpio or have Pluto. And the book Healing Pluto Problems is all about that. But so she's an example of someone with Uranus in the 10th. So we have to keep in mind that Uranus is an erratic planet, and I have one sibling out of my millions and millions of relatives, because I double checked before the podcast, and one of my sisters has Uranus in the 10th, and she's had the same inverted commas job all of her life, so she's not changed her job, but her job changes. She's a lecturer in creative writing at Bath Spa University. She's now a professor, so she's worked her way through university education, whatever it is. She's got degrees in blah 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 all after herself, and she's worked at the university for most of her working life at the same location, as it happens, because she is a fixed sign. They don't change that much, but her Uranus is in her 10th, and there's been a lot of changes in the work that she does, because she works in education, and she works in creative education, so she's basically a professor of poetry. So there's been lots and lots of changes over the years. I just saw her today, so this is what saw her and all the family today, which was lovely. But there's been a lot of changes. So if you have Uranus in the 10th, you might not necessarily want to have a job that changes at all, but there might be within the job that you have lots of changes. Now, good old Ray Orion, who wrote the wonderful book Astrology for Dummies, if you haven't got it, please get a copy. She says Uranus in the house is the position that Uranus occupies by house determines the area in life in which you can expect the unexpected. Bing! So she says Uranus in the 10th. You insist upon maintaining your independence, especially regarding your career. Good fields include, but are not limited to, social activism, computer technology, astrology and science. My sister doesn't do any of those, but anyway. You have an original viewpoint and opportunities come to you out of nowhere. Too rebellious to work in a strongly hierarchical organisation. You're a natural entrepreneur or freelancer, which is why people are sort of more associated with astrology. My sister is not a freelancer, but the work that she does, she has a lot of opportunity to do creative things. But yeah, in her case, her job has altered a lot over the years. So Donna, Uranus in the 10th is an astrologer, is supposedly some sort of signature that more astrologers are more likely to have, but it isn't a given it doesn't mean, oh, Mary, but I don't have Uranus in the 10th. I'm never going to be... Nah, don't mean that at all. Okay, so please don't get that as an understanding. So we'll go on to... So we've done Donna's chart. She was born 5th of July 1942 with a Leo ascendant, moon in Aries, conjunct the MC, and we're just concentrating on Uranus. She had a very one-sided chart. She had a bold chart, and Uranus is located in the 10th. So next we're going to have a look at Macron, Emmanuel Macron. He was born on the 21st of December 1977, 10:40 a.m. in Amiens in France. Now he's got Capricorn ascendant. What an earth sign ascendant he has. And he, like Donna, has the sun in the 12th. He's got sun in Sagittarius in the 12th, Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius in the 12th, and his Uranus is slightly higher in his 10th house. Donna's was just to the end of the 10th house. His is right slap bang in the middle, and it's 14 degrees into Scorpio. Now, Uranus in Scorpio is totally different to Uranus in Gemini. And it's not really a sign of the zodiac that's particularly compatible with Sagittarius. Sagittarius as a sign, and it's quite difficult if you are, hello, and I'm talking to you, if you're a Sagittarius and you've got your Mercury in Scorpio. They're two totally different energies, because Sagittarius is get out there, freedom, la 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 la, let's jump on a horse and go on a plane and fly. Whilst Scorpio is a deeper energy, and we're going to take our time, and we're going to go deeper and deeper and deeper. That's always what I always think of Scorpio. I always think it's depth. It's a depth thing in the hypnosis, in the hypnotherapy. This is the expression that you do when you get getting the client to get more and more relaxed. You're going deeper and deeper, and that's always what I think about when I think of the sign Scorpio. And so it's difficult for a Sagittarius, which Macron hasn't got, but it's difficult for Sagittarius to have their Mercury in Scorpio, because those two signs are so different. And there he is, he's got his freedom loving planet right slap bang in his 10th. I mean, he's been in his job quite a while, and has he had to change a bit? I don't know. The political situation obviously in France has altered a lot, and I don't know, I'm not even going to look it up. I don't know how many other jobs he had before he got to what he's doing now. But since Uranus is a freedom thing, he is going to want to be free within his career. I mean, I know my sister's case, she would not like to have somebody that's going to be telling her what to do, which they don't, fortunately. The job she's got, she isn't told what to do directly by anybody. She hasn't got like a line manager, so to speak. Yeah, maybe Uranus in the 10th, you wouldn't want a line manager. You know, like that next person up from where you are, and they sort of tell you what to do. Oh, I wouldn't even like that anyway, because I'm self-employed. Boop. So yeah, Emmanuel Macron has got his Uranus in the 10th. It does make an aspect to his moon. It is directly opposite. He's got moon in Taurus in the 4th. Look at that. It's going to like his din-dins. But there's a direct opposition because his moon is 14 degrees, look, and his Uranus is 14 degrees. That's a whopping opposition. That's the point. I think that's the same as Donald Trump's. Yes. So if we're comparing Macron, and I know Donald Trump doesn't like Macron, or he hasn't liked him recently. He's been writing some grumpy things about what he'd suggested, some things he's been suggesting. So Donald's Uranus, so he's got, I'll go through his chart from the beginning, Mary, stop jumping about the place. He has a 29 degrees Leo ascendant, Mars on the ascendant in the 12th house in Leo, Pluto in the 12th. Oof. He's got Sun 22 degrees Gemini and Uranus 17 degrees Gemini, so they're conjunct. His north node's in there as well, sandwiched in between the two of them. And his Uranus is 17 degrees Gemini, and his moon is 21 degrees Sagittarius. So he's got issues to do with mummy, either wanting to be free from because when the Uranus and the moon are in opposition, the moon represents mother. So either mother disappears when you're younger, or you want your mother to disappear, but it's going to be push pull with mum. That's interesting. They've both got that. But Emmanuel has his sun in the 12th. Donald's Uranus is going to return. It's 7 years in a sign, and it's only really early at the moment, so that's going to not be for another 4 or 5 years. He's going to have a Uranus return, so when he gets to 80 something. And he's got Mercury, so this is Donald now, he's got his Mercury in Cancer, which is part of the problem, really. His sun sign's much faster than his Mercury. His Mercury can't keep up. Whilst Macron has his Mercury in Sagittarius, it is retrograde, doesn't matter. I can repeat a few things, but it's in the same sign as his sun sign. And our last example here today, and I'm going to read another little bit of a book for you, is our Brennan, who runs the Astrology podcast. It's the most amazing podcast. He's done so many episodes, and he's very devoted to astrology. His 10th house is packed. He's got Venus in Sagittarius, Uranus in Sagittarius, Mercury in Scorpio, and Saturn in Scorpio. And his MC in equal house is right in the centre of those 4 planets. And his Uranus is 11 degrees, and it doesn't have any oppositions. Is it opposition is Chiron? No. Chiron is 7 degrees. Is that right? Chiron is 7 degrees, and his Uranus is 11. Oh, technically that's an opposition, but it's not showing it up on the astro, or maybe doesn't write the aspects in there. Okay. So 7 degrees Chiron, and then 11 degrees Uranus. Yeah, that's an opposition. But Chiron is an asteroid, not a planet, Mary. He has Sun in the 9th, Sun conjunct Pluto in the 9th. And the 9th is belief, long distance travel, further education, etc. It's a Sagittarius type of house, and the Sun is conjunct Pluto, so something's dad is the Sun and Pluto's deep change transformation. And I'm 99% sure he lost his father. So I'm sure there was an episode when he was talking with the guy that does Aries astrology, Anthony Louis, and I can't remember which way it ran. I can't remember if Anthony Louis was interviewing him, but I think it was Brennan was interviewing Anthony Louis, and they were talking about their fathers, because their fathers had died quite early or something, and it was the degree between this and that. And I'm 99% sure Brennan said he'd lost his father at quite an early age as well, and I'm sure there was something similar between the two of them. Now, because I've worked as an alternative therapist as long as I've been working as an astrologer, I'm always considering health things in people's charts. I mean, I wouldn't make an inverted commas prescription. I'm not a medical doctor or anything, wouldn't make a prescription because you got this in your chart, but I might recommend something that will assist if there's something stressful in the chart, or some aspect or some transit or whatever, to alleviate it if it's flipping obvious, not something that's vague. And so I absolutely love Managing Your Health and Wellness by Diane L. Kramer, and she says about Uranus in the 10th, you seek the unusual in life, the bizarre and unique. When not allowed to pursue your own course in life, you become tense and nervous and are subject to skin eruptions, stomach upsets and headaches. There can be joint inflammation and damage to the tendons of the knees as you age. When confronted with a health problem, you would most likely choose an unorthodox method of treatment. Now, I do know my older sister has had skin eruptions. She, I think it started more than a year ago. She suddenly came down with eczema. It does run in the family, and I just sort of put it down to stress. And I think she's alleviated most of it, but I was getting very creative a few weeks ago, and I made her a really nice herbal cream to put on it, and she said it worked really well at night to alleviate the itching. But skin eruptions, trust me, there's nothing worse than a skin condition that's itchy. It does run in my family. My father suffered from it really badly, and I haven't actually ever checked through my homeopathy clients to see how many of the skin and eczema cases that I've had, whether or not they've got Uranus in the 10th. That'd have to be something if I had an afternoon, I could check that out. But I thought it's interesting how Diane says that in there. Tense, nervous and subject to skin eruptions. But that's only when you're not allowed to pursue your course in life. I don't know about Trump and Macron, if they suffer from those types of things. I think they seem to have not had anybody stop them do the work that they want to do. Donna definitely, when she got into astrology, that was it. She was into astrology. She was very, very, very into astrology. And I think most astrologers are, when you get into astrology, that's it. Do people go in and out of it? I don't know. Do you go in and out of your astrology love? Have you sort of thought it was marvellous and then changed your mind later on? But we need to, I'm only talking about Uranus in the 10th now. I'm not talking about it being in other houses. But if the 10th is our career and Uranus is freedom, everything is bing bong, bing bong, bing in that all the time. We can't expect people to want to comply to rules and regulations, but it's not very good if that person then is running a country and having to comply to rules and regulations. I think it's much better to have that and to be self-employed, which 99.9% of astrologers are, because they're not going to be upsetting anybody else. They're doing their own thing. And I really truly don't think that there's a signature for being an astrologer. I've worked with, counselled, taught, been around, hung around with astrologers for so many years now, and I wouldn't say there was one thing that you could go, oh look, you got that, you're definitely an astrologer, or even, oh look at that, you're going to be a famous astrologer. No, I don't think there's a signature to being into that. I don't see how you could astrologically say that. There's every sign of the zodiac is an astrologer. Every planet and every house be maybe where you might take something more, more seriously. Who knows? But there's so many different types of astrology as well. There's the one end of the scale, and people look down at, unfortunately, sun sign astrology. But trust me, sun sign astrology is what people get first interested in. They only know their sign of the zodiac, but I don't think it's a good idea to knock sun sign astrology. But anyway, having been a sun sign astrologer for a long time. And then there's the other end of the scale, people that don't even see people face to face because they're writing astrology programs, or they're creating astrology events, or the astrology, it seems to slip into so many different areas of life. There's so many different types of it, which is what I absolutely love. So if you yourself have Uranus in the 10th, get in touch. If you've got a friend, relative, next door neighbour or whatever, and you want to talk about it, let me know about it. Obviously, ping me an email, mary@maryenglish.co.uk. And I hope you have a fab week, and I'll be back next week. Bye-bye now.